many months. So when you look at tax reform, you look at the Iran deal. In some ways, Corker, very important point person on that because he's the head of the Foreign Relations Committee. So you imagine that there are overtures being made to Bob Corker, certainly not from the White House necessarily in the form of Donald Trump, but other people, legislative aides, and certainly people like Mitch McConnell. What was deafening from Republicans after this happened was that no one really came to the defense of Donald Trump, right? I mean, they basically sort of praised Bob Corker. Some people said, well, he said it, I didn't. I think that was Marco Rubio's response when he was asked about some of these.
He's not returning, right?
Yeah.
Hey, I want to read some of these tweets to you and get you to respond to you. Okay, so the president just shot off a couple of tweets tonight, and he says, the fake news is at it again, this time trying to hurt one of the finest people I know, General John Kelly, by saying he will soon be fired. This story is totally made up by the dishonest media. The chief is doing a fantastic job for me and, more importantly, for the USA. Okay?
I mean, I don't know if it's clear exactly.
What is he responding to here?
Right. I mean, there's a story in Vanity Fair about some tensions between Donald Trump and John Kelly, his chief of staff, essentially saying that they're fighting all the time. We've had some reporting as well about tensions between Donald Trump as well as his chief of staff. So I think it's that. I mean, this has been kind of in the ether, essentially since John Kelly has joined the White House. How long could he stay? How long would he stay? At some point, would Donald Trump himself start to chafe at all of these stories that say that, John Kelly is sort of in charge and making him sort of abide by certain rules in the White House, making Ivanka Trump abide by certain rules. So I think that's what it is. He is probably getting some of that stuff and hearing some of that chatter.
Speaking of tension, April, President Trump had a lunch at the White House today with the Secretary of State Rex Tillerson and Defense Secretary James Mattis. They have some weighty issues to discuss, like Iran, North Korea. But this also comes after the president told Forbes he has a higher IQ than Tillerson to be a fly on the wall in that room. I mean, I don't know what they're measuring, but go on.
Well, Don, size always matters with this president in this White House. But so IQs, I guess, is part of size. But, I talked to Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee of Texas today, and she said it's not about IQ. It's about the issues that are on the table for the American people. And, for my sources who are close to this White House, they were telling me that meeting was contentious. And Rex Tillerson is definitely not happy with what the president is doing when it comes to Iran and other issues. But there is tension. There's tension with Tillerson, Mattis, and with Kelly. And this president, last week I said, it's Friday. Should we expect a resignation? It's unfortunate that it's a joke, but we have been seeing this interesting pattern arise. And we know that the people who are considered some of the stalwarts for this administration, as the president is being a modern day president, modern day presidential, they're holding him up and trying to keep the ship right. But I hear that meeting was contentious, and it's just still tension there. And to talk about IQs, Sarah Huckabee Sanders says it was a joke, but that was a tough joke.
Well, I mean, the first rule of comedy is that it should be funny, right? So Michael Isikoff, here's a background here. The president we have learned here at CNN, the president was furious after reports surfaced that Tillerson described President Trump as a moron. Here's how Trump responded to Forbes. He says, I think it is fake news, but if he did that, I guess we'll have to compare IQ tests, and I can tell you who is going to win. And here's how the White House characterized that statement from President Trump. Watch this.
Again, he wasn't questioning the Secretary of State's intelligence. He made a joke. Maybe you guys should get a sense of humor and try it sometime. But he simply made a joke. He's been extremely clear time and time again, despite the fact that you guys want to continue to bring this up and create a story. He's got 100% confidence in the Secretary of State.
So Sarah Sanders says it was a joke, but sources tell my colleague Jim Acosta that Trump was not joking. No surprise there, Mr. Scott?
Well, you have to wonder how funny Secretary Tillerson thought this was. But look, I think the most significant development is what April just referred to, which is that this meeting luncheon that they had, the president had with Mattis and Tillerson was contentious because, people have wondered and speculated for some time now what would be a tipping point that would cause, mass desertions of support among Republicans on the Hill and within his own government from President Trump, and a resignation at this point of either Tillerson or Mattis or Kelly would be that tipping point. Those are the three who people perceive as sort of holding up the ship of state, the adults in the room, and if there were to be a defection among one or more of those three, that would be the jolting event that could be the tipping point.
Absolutely. Michael D'Antonio, I want you to take a look at the president's obsession with IQ. Watch.
So I tweeted that Rick Perry should have to have an IQ test before getting on the debate stage. They sit back. I'll match my IQ. I want to match my IQ with some of those guys. With all of them. So-called eggheads. And by the way, I guarantee you, my IQ is much higher than theirs, all right? I guarantee I have a vocabulary better than all of them. Certainly most of them. I know I have an IQ better than all of them. I know that. Governor Perry, very nice guy. He made nasty statements about me. And then I challenged his IQ, which wasn't nice to do. And I challenged his glasses. What the hell are you wearing glasses for, all of us? I said the glasses aren't working.
Michael, why is he obsessed with this?
I need my glasses. Sorry. He's only got a
I've
few
got a
jokes.
pair on right now. I'm smart.
I lost mine, so go on.
He's only got a few moves. So this is a guy who likes to talk about how big someone is or how little they are. He calls Rosie O'Donnell Big Fat Rosie, and then he calls Little Marco Little. He's got a very limited range. Corker as well. He's a fellow who doesn't know who his friends are, because Corker should be his friend, and he goes after everybody. He challenged Jon Stewart on his IQ. Perry's now in his cabinet, and he said of his cabinet, this is a group that has the highest IQ of every cabinet we've ever had. So, what are we supposed to believe? I think the only person who believes this is the president in the moment that he says these things. He does believe what's coming out of his mouth in the way that an evangelist.
That's what I was going to ask you. Does he really believe these things when he's saying them? Does he really believe when he talks about everything that he's accomplished? There's no legislative accomplishments, but does he believe this stuff?
He's convinced of it as he says it, because he wouldn't sell it as well as he does.
He thinks his family is particularly intellectual. Is he going to lay hands on us?
He's going to elevate all of our IQs by 10 or 15 points. I mean, this is something that is disturbing, I think, for the likes of Tillerson and Mattis. They're now trying to figure out how to keep Pakistan from joining China in this one road, one belt project that's going to exclude the West from 70% of world trade. How are they supposed to go there and say, this is what our administration proposes, when he may come out and say, well, Little Mattis and Tillerson didn't get my permission to say this.
Well, actually, or talk about the NFL or talk about IQ and all that, much more so than focusing on that. It's very serious things. I really do think, all of you, the Corker thing got to him. I think that is really stuck in his car right now. But stick around. We're going to discuss much more of this. When we come back, new sexual harassment allegations against Hollywood's Harvey Weinstein. Now the Obamas, Hillary Clinton, finally speaking out against the big Democratic donor. We'll talk about this.